ada tetangga yang ngomong ngapain cewek sekolah tinggi-tinggi jugaan nanti di dapur gitu. Tapi ambisiku lebih kuat daripada omongan mereka. Saya Lino Verlin, lulusan Bangkit. Sekarang saya bekerja sebagai website developer di Bali untuk bantu keluarga di desa. Saya dari Sempu, Kabupaten Banyuwangi, Jawa Timur. Kebanyakan orangnya tuh bekerja sebagai petani. Ibu saya seorang petani cabai. Pas saya dapat beasiswa teknik elektro di Bali, ya senang banget dong. Bapak ibu bangga banget. Lalu tiba-tiba pandemi datang. Penjualan cabai ibu saya menurun drastis. Ditambah bapak sakit. Putus asa sih. Tapi rasanya nggak mau nyanyain usaha yang udah dilakuin sama keluarga saya. Dari situ saya mulai coba nyari-nyari kerjaan. Setelah tanya-tanya, ternyata saya harus punya skill yang nyata. Suatu hari, dosen saya menginfokan ada pelatihan gratis, namanya Bangkit. Saya lihat websitenya, ternyata Bangkit itu partnernya dari perusahaan-perusahaan besar, jadi saya memutuskan untuk daftar. Waktu belajar cloud computing seperti IT automation, architecting, Python optimization, memang diajarin sama ahlinya langsung. Dari Bangkit itu kita juga diajari untuk bikin resume yang bagus, terus wawancara yang bagus. Terus karena di Bangkit itu ada job fair, di akhir acaranya saya ikutan aja ngelamar. Besoknya pas wawancara, pertanyaan yang dari Bangkit itu ada yang keluar, jadi saya lebih gampang untuk menjawabnya. Akhirnya saya diterima jadi full-time website developer. Pas gajian pertama, bapak saya senangnya bukan main. Beliau bilang, biasanya orang tua yang ngasih ke anak, sekarang anak yang ngasih ke orang tua. Lino Verlin yang dulu, anak dari desa, kurang percaya diri. Lino Verlin yang sekarang lebih percaya diri karena punya banyak skill.
Dulu aku sering bertanya, apakah ini masa depanku? Apakah hari demi hari akan kuhabiskan seperti ini? Jauh dari mimpi-mimpiku. Dan akhirnya, kuputuskan untuk ubah pertanyaan ini menjadi tantangan. Untuk mendorong diri sendiri lebih keras lagi. Untuk membahagiakan mereka yang tak pernah lelah memberikan dukungan. Untuk mereka yang terus mengingatkanku, kalau asal-usulku bukanlah sebuah batasan. Namun, perjuangan terkadang datang bersama rintangan. Tuntutan untuk mengorbankan kuliah demi memenuhi kebutuhan. Ada saatnya di mana aku sempat merasa putus asa. Sampai akhirnya aku menemukan jalan. Dukungan ibu yang membuat jalanku semakin terang. Mendekatkanku ke masa depan yang aku impikan. Perjuanganku pun dimulai. 900 jam kuhabiskan menggali ilmu, memahami kode demi kode untuk mulai berinovasi. Awal perjalanan untuk pengalaman yang tak terlupakan. Bersama para mentor yang bantu tunjukkan arah kemana aku harus melangkah. Membangun kepercayaan diriku untuk berdiskusi dan bersuara. 6 bulan yang mempersiapkanku untuk kembali ke kelas, meraih beasiswa dan mendapat gelar sarjana, menyelesaikan pendidikan yang sempat tertunda, dan yang dulu mengharuskanku susah payah mencari lowongan kerja, sekarang kesempatan datang dengan sendirinya. Kini, aku sudah tidak lagi bertanya, apa ini masa depanku? Karena aku percaya kalau pilihanku membentuk masa depanku, membawaku ke karir impian yang dulu cuma jadi hayalan. Saat jatuh ke titik terendah, aku harus terus bangkit. Dan satu pesanku, ubah segala pertanyaan jadi tantangan. Beranikan diri untuk mengejar mimpi.
Okay, hi folks, how are you all doing? Hope you all doing great. And yeah, welcome to the 5th Bangkit guest speaker session. Wow, it's already 1-1, yeah, since our first guest speaker session. And I think all of you are already familiar with this session and hopefully will be excited as well. Today we have a lot of people here watching. And I want to see your excitement, guys. So, yeah, please comment in the YouTube chat and show us how excited you are. Okay, you can also put the emoji, yeah. Okay, before we jump into our main session, let me introduce myself. I'm Praylin Simarmata, usually called Praylin. And same with you guys, I was also Bangkit student back then in 2022. And currently, I'm a Bangkit graduate and also a mentor in Bangkit Academy 2023 for machine learning path. And I'm so happy to be back in this environment because, as we know, Bangkit is a safe place to learn and grow. And yeah, I let myself grow in here. And I also hope all of you will feel the same experience as me, or even more than that. Okay, today we are going to discuss about a career sharing from an engineer's perspective. I think this topic is really related to all of us in here because at the end of the day, we want to develop our career and pursue our dream. And at the end of this session, we're gonna have an interactive question and answer. So if you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask in the column chat with the hashtag ask. So guys, I really encourage you to ask with hashtag ASK and then followed by your question. And to support our session today, we have our great guest speaker, Mbak Angie Sasmita. Mbak Angie is an Android DevRel engineer at Google. So Mbak Angie will tell us about the experience of her career journey, and vice versa. Okay, I think Mbak Angie are already with us today. Hello, Mbak.
Hello, Mbak Pervin.
How are
Thank you
you
so much
today,
for
Mbak?
having me today. Yes, I'm good. I'm good. How are you today?
I'm also good, Mbak. I think all of us are ready to hear you, Mbak. So now the screen and stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbak Pervin, for the introduction. And thank you so much for Bangkit for inviting me today for this guest speaker session. I'm very excited to share with you all Bangkit students of 2023 about a little bit of myself, a little bit of my experience in my career in tech. And hopefully, all of us can learn a little bit from this session today. Maybe could I have my slides on the screen as well? Thank you. All right. Maybe the next slide, please. Okay. Maybe just a little bit of myself, just to put this conversation in context. Because there is the saying in Indo that like tak kenal maka tak sayang ya. So my name is Angie Sasmita, or everyone, my friends all call me Angie. So I graduated as an engineer actually, but not a software engineer. I graduated as an industrial engineer. Um, Maybe some of you have heard of it before, like technic industry. So it's definitely something related to engineering, but in industrial engineering, you don't really build software, but you build like systems, logistic systems. So it's slightly different than um, engineering in terms of what we are talking about in the world of software. And maybe to share a little bit like how I got into this line of work as a software engineer or an Android engineer after my graduation, because maybe some of you are now like kind of doing your university degree and trying to figure out what you like to do in the future in your career. Something that I found very useful is because especially early in your career, there are so many different paths that you can pursue. And something that I find useful is because sometimes you kind of try to figure out like, what would I like to do in the future? What would be my passion job? Something that I would love to do, and also earn myself a living. And sometimes it's something that's very difficult to figure out for yourself. And what I learned is sometimes it's easier to figure out what is the thing that you don't want to do. And that's something that I actually figure out when I was completing my degree and I was taking a few internship in industrial engineering, and I figured out that I actually don't really like doing what I've been spending my time doing. But there is no loss to it, of course. There's always experience that you can learn along the way in whatever path that you do, and it's just kind of a pivot that you need to do. And it's sort of like my career in the tech world started as a pivot from an industrial engineer to a software engineer. But that also means that going into my first job, I didn't have maybe as much knowledge of fundamental engineering things that my peers have when they had went through that formal education of um, an software engineering degree. So I started my career as a software engineer in Remco Systems, which is where I developed my first. I was working to build facial recognition systems, and there was a lot of on-the-job learning that I had to do, given that I didn't have that much formal education in that. So there is very interesting work and in the landscape that's more kind of a more startup landscape. And after that, after spending around a year there, learning a lot, I decided that, I want to learn even more things. And that's where I joined ThoughtWorks, which is one of the top tech consultancy in the world. And they are very strong in terms of um, doing agile delivery projects. So I wanted to learn to become a better engineer, to deliver good products, to deliver, um, to work in the team that understand agile practices and do it very well. And that's where I spent the next bulk of my career, working in ThoughtWorks and climbing up the ranks to become a senior developer and working on different projects, working on different scales of apps. I was a full stack engineer there, so I learned a lot of different system, backend, front end, a little bit of cloud infrastructure, and have different kind of experiences and really understand the end-to-end experience of building a software. And after that, late in 2021, I found that there was an interesting opening at Google as an Android data engineer, which is a role that is slightly different than a typical software engineering. Well, in software engineering, your focus is to deliver the product, the software. In data engineer, the focus is to advocate for best practices of engineering itself, and in particular, it is focusing on very specific area, which is Android. So in this talk today, like what I would like to talk more about is, since like we have an audience of people in from like cloud, from machine learning as well, and as well as Android, of course. So I would like to talk about more than just the technical challenges as a software engineer, but more about what is your career going to look like in the future, and kind of like what is uh, some tips and tricks and some principles that I kind of have in my career that I apply to kind of help me so far in my career to become a better engineer. So next slide, please. Yeah, so a lot of you today probably are going to be the future of the tech world in Indonesia in the next 10 years, and going to step into that role and now learning a lot about technical fundamentals here in the Bangkit program. You might kind of like have this perception of, how would my day in my work life gonna be like? What is it the day to day of an engineer? See, like maybe you have that curiosity before. Next slide. And maybe your expectation, maybe like from what I see in the media, in the TV show, like, an engineer, you have this very cool big screens with like dim lighting and all your caffeine drinks, your coffee, your Red Bulls, like burning the midnight oil, typing all your codes in and shipping all your codes day in and day out to the weekends, all the cool stuff. That's the expectation that maybe you have, like in terms of like being an engineer. Next slide. But the reality is maybe slightly different than what you would think it is. Like the reality, yes, there is of course that portion of you coding, definitely. Like this like a bulk of why you want to have that technical skill in yourself. But a lot of a bunch chunk of your time would also spend in meetings, would also spend collaborating with people. And maybe this is like kind of the joke of all the engineers, like how much proportion of your time you spend coding versus what you're spending in meetings. But beyond just like that joke, this also means that being an engineer requires you to have skills beyond your technical skills, skills that involve people skills, communication skills, collaboration skills. And sometimes, or a lot of times, or even as you progress to a more senior level, it's becoming more and more important to have, or to hone, or to have great skills within these soft skills that you might not realize early on in your career. And this is especially as maybe like all of us, like sometimes we choose the work as an engineer because we a lot of us are introverts, like I am included, and maybe we prefer to like go and in our corners and just churn out some codes and be happy with our work. But the reality of software engineering, the reality of building a software, unless you are a one-person indie company just publishing your own code, the reality is you are going to work with other people. You are going to work with other engineers within your code base that makes the code better. You're going to work with other people with other specialty, whether it's the product people, whether it's the marketing people. You're going to work in a cross-functional team that have people from all across specialty, all across expertise that you would probably need in order for the product and for the company to work. And this is where sometimes that I think it's very important, and this is a lot of times the distinction that really differentiates a junior engineer and a senior engineer. Whether you are able to see the bigger picture, to go beyond just the task that you are assigned to and produce that. And that's a given. That's something that, of course, you need to do. But to see the product and the workflow from a bigger picture, to see it end to end, to understand how the team works as a unit so that it becomes a well-oiled machine to go forward. And this is where I think it's really important to even start having this mindset of just going beyond your own code, to have that curiosity to see what is the bigger picture, what is this product for, even beyond engineering, like beyond just making good code, but also making useful code, making efficient code that's useful in different scales that it's going to be. Next, please. So that's also the reason why I wanted to talk more beyond just like the technical aspect of things, because well, I am sure that there will be a lot of interesting and good questions that you may ask later during our Q&A sessions in terms of very specific technical related advice or questions that you may have. But what I'd like to share more about is also in terms of in general, like working in tech and working in an industry that is fast paced. How do you have that mindset to kind of keep going and be able to grow more? And this is basically the next few minutes or so. What I would be sharing more is more on that aspect of like some principles that I apply in my own career in order for me to progress and also becoming a better engineer and a better person myself. So next, please. So the sort of the first principle that I kind of apply whenever there will be time in your career where you are faced with different folks or different cross road in terms of like choosing different options that you may be privileged to have. Things like, within some job offers that you have, which job would you prefer to take? Or within different projects that you are considering, which one you take, which role you should go to, or which specialty you should go to in terms of different interests that you have within engineering, for example. What personally I myself always have in terms of different consideration I make is to always ask myself like how much learning or how much opportunity do I gain from this option that I'm picking. So it's a mindset of always optimizing for learning and growth, because it's something that will be adding to yourself, and it would be something that you would have regardless of any other factors that happens externally that you can't control. So why this is so important? Next slide. Because this is like super important, because eventually being able to optimize for learning, it means that you will be prepared in the moment when opportunity happens. Because in the end of the day, success, or sometimes people say like there is no such thing as luck, because success is opportunity meeting preparation. Um, Sometimes like you are in you want to be in the right time, right place, and the right time and right place. Of course, there is like a lot of external factors to it, but something that you can control is being able to have that preparation. So when you are optimizing always for learning and growth, that's where you will be the most prepared when time comes. Next slide, please. And this is also tying to my second principle, which is developing a growth mindset, really. Maybe I'm not sure if everyone have heard this term of like growth mindset or fixed mindset. Maybe just to explain it a little bit. So growth mindset is really a mindset that everything is changing and everything has the opportunity or the chance of becoming better. So that applies for a lot of things, whether it applies for you personally, whether it applies for your career, whether it applies for even your relationship, your how you relate to other people. Like, things are always dynamic and things always change, as opposed to fixed mindset, where maybe applied in a personal mindset, you can be a person that's be like, oh, this is just me, this is just my capability right now, and it's not gonna change. I'm just this person, and no matter what I do, I am just like this. Or okay, this is just my level, and I'm blah blah blah. For example, there is no sense of things are changing, but it can also be applied in the sense of every single opportunity or every single milestone that you have in your career or even in your life. Um, you take it as is an opportunity of learning. You take it as this is a good learning or something I learned today, a good learning that I have, whether it's a success or failure. You don't see it as a face value of, this happened, so it's a success, or this happened, this is a failure. You take everything as a journey and as a work in progress. And for myself, like, I find it very liberating to have this growth mindset, because it also means that whether it's a one step forward or two step backwards, or three step forward, you don't necessarily be fixated in that state. at this short period of time, but think of it as just a journey where there is going to be a next day that you can you can make things better. So this is especially so like in a fast-paced environment like in tech, things can get very stressful, things can change a lot, and um, it's just a journey that everyone has to take, and having the mindset of things potentially being able to uh, go for the better means that you are also having that motivation to keep going, to keep learning, and to keep improving. And especially so like in the tech world where um, it's about innovation, it's about being better from the previous way, it's about how you make product that make lives better for everyone in the next generation even. So that growth mindset is very important, and I think something that I find personally helps me a lot in my personal career journey. Next slide, please. And to have this growth mindset, I think it's really also important to understand that you need to be able to measure, because what there's the saying of like what you can't measure you can't improve. So if you don't know, like I mentioned that like don't get fixated to the state of things, but the state itself is not important, but the data is, because what you can't measure, where you are right now, you can't improve. So that's where in tech or in engineering, you always try to figure out what's the data or collecting data, or even the whole basis of like machine learning and data science is to analyze data, to see patterns. And this is where like sometimes in life there are things that's easier to measure, so that is things that's quantifiable, like for example in engineering you want to know the product data, you want to know the user data, you want to know security issues, for example, how to measure things, how to improve things, so you know what is the level now, and you can have a comparison between now and in the past, and what is the projection for the future, and how you are putting different strategies to improve it. And the question is, there are certain things that is not easy to measure. There are certain things that is subjective. There are certain things that's situational, and you still need to improve on those things. And as I mentioned in the early part of my talk, is there is also a really important component of collaboration and communication within our work as an engineer. And the question is, how do we improve that if we can't measure that? How do we know whether we are good at communicating? How do we know whether we are good at collaborating with other people? How do we know that other people find us easy to work with, or hard to work with? And what kind of style of communication or style of collaboration that people like from us or what people didn't like from us? And how do we improve that? So that's a kind of a key question that I think sometimes is overlooked. And so the first question is like, how do you measure? Um, Next slide, please. So a lot of the measurement comes from feedback. So what is feedback? Next slide. Feedback is something that you get from people around you, whether that people is out the audience or your peers or your senior, your manager, and that is kind of a report of how they find you, or how they find um, what you did in terms of the performance, in terms of um, their opinion on it. So, of course, feedback is something that is subjective because it is something that is given by specific people. But other parts that I think sometimes overlook when we are talking about feedback, and we are seeing how feedback is like, is thinking of feedback as a gift, and thinking of feedback as a free gift. So this is something that is other people or you as a feedback giver have given to others freely. You don't ask for compensation or for money for giving this feedback. You are giving or receiving this feedback because there is an intention um, of wanting the other party to be better at things. And this is definitely different than criticism, for example. And in feedback, there is like two different kinds. There is a positive feedback and there is a constructive feedback. So feedback of like, and I think this is also important to take note, because when people think of feedback, they just think about, oh, they just want to give all the negative things that they don't like about something. No, but part of very powerful and important, impactful feedback is also positive feedback, because it also highlights what needs to be done even more, what is something that is appreciated. And sometimes people forget to put in positive feedback, even though that's kind of the more important kind of feedback sometimes. Next slide, please. And the question is like, how do you give or receive effective feedback? How do you get feedback that would be useful for you and would something that would be able to help you improve yourself? So there are a few elements of effective feedback that I'm going to go through here. One is having a face-to-face conversation, even though we are now so used, we are in the Zoom generation that's so used of communicating virtually. There is always the different aspect of face-to-face conversation that is missing from virtual meetings. Things like body language, things like your presence and your tone that sometimes is just missing when you are talking to other people through the virtual means. Second feedback is it's something that is us. So there is sometimes some things like unsolicited feedback, like you don't ask for it, suddenly you are given that feedback. It might not be the most effective kind of feedback because one, the receiver doesn't expect that feedback, and maybe then have not thought about the whole improvement part of things. The third thing is very importantly to have it timely and in context. So sometimes you kind of have a feedback from someone, but you um, give it to the person a year afterwards, or like even a month afterwards. Like you come in to see the person and say like, hey, remember that meeting a month ago? You said this, and I don't think um, that's great for the client to hear, for example. And then the other person might not even remember that meeting that you were referring to. So like it's really important to give it in context, like uh, when it happens, and to give it in a timely manner. Because what happens is like when you don't give a constructive feedback, for example, to a person, the person would just assume that what they have done is something that is correct and appropriate, and they would then repeat the same behavior. Like maybe sometimes you feel like, okay, one time if they do it this if they are late to a meeting one time, that's fine. Maybe after three times, then I will give that person a warning. It also means that as the person receiving the feedback, like they've so far received the signal that being late to a meeting, it's okay, because I haven't heard anything so far. It's a acceptable behavior in this context, but it's not. So really getting the feedback in a timely manner and being able to make sure that something is not only flag when it's a repeated behavior is important. And again, the fourth point is also giving a feedback with care, because the again understanding that feedback is a gift. So similar to like a gift, like it's when you give something to another person, it's it's kind of the right of the other person to then receive the gift or not, right? So it's their right to whether to accept it or not. It's given freely by you, and for you, it's to give this gift means to help them improve. So it's really important that you're giving it to build up someone and not to knock down people. Um, The next point is also to give a feedback in a very specific and actionable manner. So something that if you can think of it, face it as something like, oh, I notice this behavior and this is not good because what is the impact of it and how that other person can then improve, have an action to improve on that feedback. That's where the feedback becomes effective because there is a very specific thing and actionable, something that they can then improve on. And always give a feedback on a behavior and not a character of a person. So what is the difference between like a behavioral character? So when you say it like, hey, you are such a lazy engineer and you've never delivered your project on time. So that is basically an attack on somebody's character because you are describing this person as a lazy person, as a character flaw that, and using absolute languages like never or always, this is something that one will not be taken great. It means that the improvement that you would expect that person or you would wish for that person to have will not happen because that person will come in as a being defensive in the first place. Hey, you're attacking my character, and of course I'm going to defend my character. I'm not a lazy engineer. And um, and then the feedback itself or the hope of the whole conversation becomes ineffective. What is a more effective feedback would be like, hey, I noticed that you are late in submitting your assignment for this particular project on this date, and I hope this does not happen in the future. So what you are giving the feedback on is on a specific behavior, and this is the actionable things that you would like to change in the future. You are not attacking people's character. You are zooming in on a specific incident because this is also on the belief of um, always give a benefit of doubt when dealing with others. You Everyone have their own individual circumstances that you don't know about, and working collaboratively means needing to work with different types of people with different limitation, different strengths and weaknesses as well. And this means um, to be able to then focuses more on the work and more on behavior rather than the people or personality or character would serve you better in a lot of situations, in a lot of circumstances. And it makes you a more adaptive engineer as well. Next slide, please. So I'm going to show you one video that I find very good in terms of relevant of influence in terms of giving people benefit of doubt, especially in the context of like giving feedback and relating and collaborating with people. Maybe we can play this video.
Imagine a microscopic sized ladder contained in the part of our brain that will label our subconscious. The Ladder of Inference, which was first proposed by Harvard professor Chris Argyris, is the basis of this model. Every time we interact with someone, that experience enters the ladder at the bottom. That same experience zips up the ladder in the blink of an eye, exiting at the top. This process happens thousands of times a day without us knowing it. Let's focus on what happens on each rung of the ladder. On the first rung, we have the raw data and observations of our experience. This is very similar to what someone watching a video recording of our experience would see. Moving up to the second rung, we filter in specific information and details from our experience. We unknowingly filter based on our preferences, tendencies, and many other aspects that we believe are important. Onto the third rung, we assign meaning to the information we have filtered through. This is where we start to interpret what our information is telling us. On the fourth rung, a very crucial thing happens. we develop assumptions based on the meaning we created on the previous rung, and we start to blur the distinction between what is fact and what is story. On the fifth rung, we develop conclusions based on our assumptions. This is also where our emotional reactions are created. On the sixth rung, we adjust our beliefs about the world around us, including the person or people involved in our experience of the moment. On the seventh and final rung, we take action based on our adjusted beliefs. Still with me? Great! Let's take a real-life example and run it up the ladder to see how this all works. Have you ever been cut off in a parking lot, signal light on, as you steer toward your coveted spot only to slam on your brakes at the last minute as someone pulls in front of you and steals your spot away? Imagine that experience and notice all of the data and observations landing on the first rung of your ladder. Now let's watch what we pay attention to on the second rung. Who cares that it's sunny out and the birds are chirping? The 50% off sign outside of your favorite store is meaningless. You filter in the sensation of your grip tightening on the wheel, you feel your blood pressure rise, you hear the squeal of your brakes, and you notice the expression on the face of the other driver as he pulls in front of you and quickly looks away. Time for our third rung. Ever since you were young, your parents taught you the importance of waiting in line and taking your turn. You live and die by the rule of first come, first served. And now this guy has just stolen your spot. What gives? Up to the fourth rung we go. Watch closely as our assumptions take over and our story creates itself. That stupid jerk. Didn't his parents teach him anything? How could he not see my signal light? He must never pay attention. Why does he think he's more important than anyone else? Jumping quickly to the fifth rung, we conclude that this guy is heartless, inconsiderate, he needs to be taught a lesson and put in his place. We feel angry, frustrated, vindictive, justified. On our sixth rung, we adjust our beliefs based on the experience. That's the last time I give in. Next time someone tries to cut me off, tires will be smoking on the pavement as I squeal past them into my spot. And finally, our last rung, we take action. We back up, pull up behind his car, honk our horn, and roll down our window to scream a few choice words his way. Now, imagine, he walks over quickly, apologizing. His wife, who is almost due with their first baby, called him from inside the mall to say she is in labor and needs to get to the hospital immediately. We are momentarily shocked, apologize profusely, and wish him luck as he rushes toward the entrance. What just happened here? What changed? Why is this so significant? In our parking lot example, our beliefs were short-circuited by the ladder of the other individual. My wife is in labor. I need to get there quick. There's a parking spot. Phew! Oh, geez, I cut someone off. I better apologize quickly so they don't think I'm a jerk. But what if we were able to short-circuit our ladders ourselves, proactively, by choice? Guess what? We can. Let's return to our unique human function of free will. Next time you notice yourself reacting to your experience, pay focused attention to your ladder. Ask yourself what beliefs are at play, and where did they come from? What data and observations did you filter in as a result of your beliefs, and why? Are your assumptions valid and supported by facts? Would a different set of assumptions create different feelings and result in new and better conclusions and actions? We all have our own unique ladder. Be mindful of yours and help others to see theirs.
Yep. Jadi, oh sorry, forgot. Yeah. So Ladder of Inference, I think it's one of the really interesting technique in terms of being able to um, give that benefit of doubt to others around you, because of maybe giving some empathy. Like the definition of empathy is like walking in other people's shoes, and you don't know what their shoes is like. And this is, I think, the essence of being able to collaborate well with people, being able also within that collaboration improve each other, and make each other better. Next slide, please. Okay, the third thing is there is just a lot of saying in terms of like work, like follow your passion. Like, hey, I wanted to get that one job that I would love doing my life every day for the rest of my life, and doing that and achieve all the achievement that you can get out of the job, and always looking for that passion. I think a lot of the work, uh, especially if you're dealing with the work in tech, like sometimes you kind of like, oh, I want to have that cool job that I would like really enjoy, and maybe I just haven't found that passion yet, or maybe this is not the job yet that I would be the most passionate about. And then you keep trying to figure out like, oh, maybe I just change to another job, maybe I change to another profession, and finding the passion until I find that. Next slide. But what I find, at least in my own personal experience, is that's not the way things are. Like, you are not going to sit around and suddenly one day figure out, hey, I'm perfect for this job, and I would love doing this job, and suddenly that job being available to you. That's just not the way it is. Sometimes inspiration do comes, but a lot of times action is the one that gives you the momentum to have that passion. Next slide. So I think the principle that is more appropriate to have is the Nike principle, as they say, or like, just do it. Because in the act of doing something, you are learning. In the act of or having an action, create a momentum. And if you remember from your physics um, lessons, maybe in your high school, your Newton first law, like, if you are at rest, you are tend to be at rest if there is no force that is acting on you. When there is a force, then Newton's second law, you will move on an accelerated pace. So I think one of the great pitfall is to kind of wait around and not do anything and hope that your fortune would change. And this is the part where I applaud all of you to have joined Bangkit. I think this is a really good step to build that momentum forward, to have gained that opportunity to be prepared when the opportunity comes. And that's the way to success. Next slide. One of the next thing that I would like, I'm not sure how many people have seen this book before. I think this is the part that one of the books that I find very much um, life changing in a way, because I find that it is able to encapsulate different concepts very well. Um, it's this book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. If you have a chance to read it, it's a really good one. So there are two main points that is hammered a lot in this book. That habits or habit that you have makes character. Uh, One point that he made is, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fail to the level of your systems. And this is where um, a lot of, like, we are starting like the year, it's like March. A lot of your New Year's resolution probably have failed at this point, because you want you make goals when you started the year's new, and you try to rise to that level. Okay, I have this goal, and I'm going to be fit, and I'm going to run a marathon in the next 3 months. But if you don't have the system that supports that, or you don't build the system around you that supports that, that's probably going to be a tough one to achieve, because life happens around you. Priority will be prioritized. And when you don't have the system to make that an automatic habit in your life, you don't able to then achieve the goals. And the second thing is like every action that you take is a vote for the person you wish to become. So when I said the principle just now, like just do it, because every action that you do is making you closer to become who you are. So if you say like, "Hey, I want to be an engineer," don't just think that I want to be an engineer. Think from the mindset of I am an engineer. And what does engineers do? Oh, they code. They read codes. They read books. They talk about coding. They read news, for example. Maybe those are what you think of an engineer. So by just doing those action and building the momentum, you are making a vote or giving a vote for what you wish to become, and eventually you become it. Like there is another talk that's very famous about fake it until you make it. I think that's very true. um, Sometimes when you are trying to achieve something in your career, in your life, you are stopping at the point of, oh, I want to be that, and I'm just thinking of being that, and then hoping that that would happen. And I think sometimes we forget that just making an action, even how small it is, just faking it until suddenly you are it. And that's, I think, the most powerful thing that you can do. Next slide, please. That's it. I think those are some of the insights I gain. Like some of it sounds very cliche, I know, but it's cliche for a reason. Like it is because it's true, it works, and those really have are the principles that I personally gained from like half a decade in the industry, and to keep myself motivated to be in this fast-paced industry, to still be learning and still growing as a person, as an engineer. So I hope that helps. For some of you who have heard some of these concepts before, I hope that becomes like a good reminder for every one of us as well. Thank you. I would like to open up for questions then.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Angie, for sharing your knowledge and experience in your career. There's one sentence actually that interests me is about success is opportunity meeting preparations. Because when someone success, there are still many people that say it's just because of luck. So, but it's not. It's actually because of hard work and the preparation, of course, and then when the preparation meeting the opportunity, then it will become a success. So thank you for the sharing, Mbak. I think we can jump into the question. So we wait for the Bangkit team update. Okay, so the first question is from Ivan Vesky. He asks, sometimes the feedback given is not in accordance with what we expect. How to receive feedback well and in accordance with what we expect? Thank you.
Very good question. So first of all, feedback is a gift. And so when you receive a gift, what's the first thing that you would say? Thank you, right? So of course, the first thing that you would say when you receive a feedback is, hey, thank you so much that you have been very considerate enough of me, of my growth, to give some time to think about and give me this feedback. In terms of like getting the feedback that you would expect, of course, I think in the ideal case, you would want to ask for that feedback. And this is the part that I think is very important when asking for feedback, because sometimes when we ask for feedback, we are not being very specific about it. We'll just like, hey, can I have a feedback on this, and then that's it, and then hope that the other person kind of be able to read our mind in terms of what exactly we want from that feedback. So it's always good to be specific about, hey, I have, for example, I have the talk, I'm going to give a talk for these amazing Bangkit students, and I know that you will be in the audience. Like, I am trying to improve on my public speaking, on, for example, my enunciation and how I deliver certain concepts. Like, would you be able to listen to that and give me some feedback on how I did, and maybe some of your thoughts on how I can improve on things. So making it as specific as possible is important to, because you are responsible of your own learning and improvement, and you yourself know the best in terms of what feedback you are trying to, or what data you are trying to collect, and that's where setting the expectation in terms of what feedback you are going to receive is important. Of course, when you are receiving an unsolicited feedback, or feedback in the areas that you didn't expect before, um, or even feedback that you expect but some a result that you didn't expect, of course, then that comes in terms of the level of introspection. Like, hey, there is this feedback. Is that something that is true, or you rings true for you personally? Like, do I receive this feedback from multiple people? Is it a data that is just an outlier, or is it consistent data? And so again, because feedback inherently is a gift, then it's upon you as the receiver to decide, do I want to receive this feedback? Do I want to get this feedback and put it to my heart and make some improvement to it? Or thank you so much for the feedback, and I think then we are not going to do anything from that feedback. So that's also valid, because it's on you yourself to figure out what feedback input that you should choose to then make action on yourself.
Okay, so be specific when asking a feedback ya, Mbak.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mbak. Talking about feedback also, how can we figure out when we get the bad feedback? I mean, the bad feedback usually can make us insecure, and how to make us not feeling that.
I think always so try to get a lot of feedback. So in a sense that then you are able to kind of know whether it's a pattern, or is it just an outlier. Also, ask the right kind of people for feedback. So ask people, for example, who have expertise on certain things, people who have more experience on certain things than yours. And I think always have the mindset of not making it personal, not making it, and that's also ties into the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. And I know it's easier said than done, like, because when you hear feedback, of course, the first thing you hear is like, oh, there is something wrong with me, like there is something inherently bad about me as a person. But really think about, instead of focusing on that, instead of focusing on the mistake that you have done, for example, maybe focus on what can we improve from it. Like, knowing that I as a person always have the room to improve, and um, making a mistake is not a character flaw. Everyone makes mistakes. So even rather than focusing on like, I am a bad person because I did this, we should always focus on like, oh, I learned that I shouldn't do this, and hence I would do another thing in the future.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mbak. So we jump into another question. Hopefully it answer even question, yeah. Okay, the next question from Fajar Maulana Hidayat. He asks, if we are pursuing a career in engineering, is there a chance that we can reach managerial position someday if we get promoted?
The answer is of course, because of course there is an engineering managers as well, because when you are working in organizations, at some point you need managerial positions to then manage engineers, and um, the most effective ways of managing an area, a technical area expertise, is always to have that area of technical expertise itself. So like um, a lot of managerial position requires that technical expertise as well, because of course a lot of people that I respect most is like a lot of managers that I've reported over the years are those people who have those like strong technical expertise and able to have the strong managerial skills to able to manage a team as well. So the answer is of course, and this is where I think beyond just being focusing on the technical part of being an engineer is really important also to develop soft skills and collaboration skills, and thinking about the team in a bigger picture outside of your own scope of work.
Okay, so it is possible ya Mbak to get
Yeah,
that. And I think back to again the success. So we must prepare, of course, so that when we get promoted, we can accept that. Okay,
yeah.
thank you, Mbak. Okay, next question from Nur Mahin. Hi, Kak Angie. What is a polite attitude that we can use if we want to ask for feedback from people we have not met before, but we know their experience? Thank you.
Um, a polite attitude is to ask and not have any expectation, I think, always, because of course you can ask for anything, but I think then um, asking doesn't mean that you are going to have a yes answer. There is also a no answer. So of course everyone can ask for anyone. Like I could email I don't know, like President Jokowi today and ask for his feedback for something, for example. Doesn't mean that I would get it. So I think part of the thing I mentioned is like getting feedback from people that experience that. Also, I think the other part that's important is also getting feedback from people that knows the context and knows you, because that would give you more granular information or granular suggestions to know how to improve. um, of course, like people with experience might also have a different perspective, but sometimes the proximity to yourself personally is also important. So um, yeah, I think it's a balance. So my answer would be like we can always ask politely, of course, um, and if the answer is yes and they are graceful enough to help us, is of course something that is very welcome. If not, then we'll ask the next person available.
Okay, Mbak. Is there any tips that we get the yes from the what that their experience like that?
No, I think because
It's really biased.
um, I mean, it really depends, like people from people. Like some people enjoys this, enjoys like giving tips, giving like mentoring, giving feedback. Some people really don't. Like some people just so happen do not have time for like different things. Like again, like the ladder of influence. So because like everyone have their own situation and assumption, maybe they find it weird that there is a total stranger that approach them. Some people are not used to it, so that's fine as well. I think just ask directly, politely, um, hoping for the best, and yeah, like you don't know, the tech community is small. Someone that you kind of interact maybe years before, sometimes it pops up again in your uh, career, in your life down the road. Of course, you always want to maintain a cordial relationship with everyone.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mbak. Hopefully, it answered Nur Mahin questions. Okay, next question It's from Josephine Diva. She asks, Miss Angie, is there any knowledge that you can share about your career journey? Because there are many job vacancies that require at least 3 years experience to be accepted as a senior developer.
Thanks, Josephine, for the questions. Um, I think this is the part where it's a little bit tricky because definition of a senior developer for different organizations can be different. What is considered a senior in one company may not be considered senior in other companies. So whatever that you see in the job description that you're trying to apply, um, take it with a pinch of salt. Like there is no harm in applying for things. I think, especially for Josephine, a female engineer like me, there is this research that says that a lot of male job seekers tend to apply with more confidence for a job application that they don't meet all the criteria in job description, and they just try and apply for it. A lot of us female professionals in this industry, especially, like we tend to want to take our keep our ducks in the row, check all our boxes before applying for something, and that gives us a big disadvantage in the outcome because in reality a lot of the jobs in the company they are pretty flexible with what their requirement is, and sometimes it's again um, the opportunity meet the preparation. Sometimes maybe you don't have on paper the experience, but you have the skill for it. So don't be afraid to just try it out. There is no harm in applying for it. Again, in terms of like fix and growth mindset, if you, like, for example, fail in your application to apply for some companies, it also going through the process of the recruitment is also a learning process for you to become a better candidate with later on in a job search process. So just apply for it if you feel that you want to try. This is an interesting role that is available out there. um, I think don't get bogged down in terms of the title, like whether it's like a senior lead or whatever title that a company has. It doesn't matter that much in general because again, the title is not translatable across industries. What matters is your skills. What matters is your experience, what you can demonstrate. Um, one within the interview process or the recruitment process, and also later on in your job. So it's more important to find roles that give you that opportunity to learn rather than to just have a title that looks good in your resume, for example.
Okay, thank you, Mbak, for the answer. So it's just do it, ya, Mbak. So just apply because there's also the opportunity. Okay, thank you for the question, Josephine. Maybe the next question. Okay, it's from Noga Muktiwati. He, he asks how you can improve in a bad situation sometimes in software engineering.
Thanks, Nuga, for the question. I think this question is a little bit vague in terms of what is the bad situation that you are referring to. So maybe I can kind of break it down into different bad situation that might happen. One, it might be a technical or software related issue, like um, your code is messy, you have bugs in your production, you have production defect, or things like um, you are not able to meet the timeline of how you should deliver your work in time. So those can be like bad situation that happens in software engineering. So I think usually in, and this is of course like different from organization to organization. What I would recommend is always like as a team, if there is a technical issue that happens, whether it's in production, whether it's in the code base itself, things like that. Always have the retrospective mindset, like um, to kind of figure out the problem and taking out the people element out of it. to figure out how this problem happened and how we can improve the process in the future to prevent such occurrence of the issue. So focuses on the process and getting like an autopsy in terms of like an incident that happened, for example. So taking out the who did what from that equation of the incident that happened. I think that's a good way in terms of moving forward in making the situation or improving the situation. The second things is maybe interpersonal relationship that or collaboration issue that might happen in a team. So that's where kind of like where the collaboration or the communication skills really is more important in terms of like improving relationship in terms of so there is this book that is I think one of a good one in terms of like having conversation and improving conversation when things are not going well. It's called crucial conversation. So this is where like sometimes you need to have that hard talk with people or certain individuals or things to figure out your common goals, how you resolve a conflict. That's where the conflict resolution issue would come in as well. So that's kind of like a general tips in terms of like try to break down first what sort of bad situation is happening and how you can tackle it. Of course, like there is a bit too broad for me to go into specifics. But thank you, Noga, for the question.
Okay, so I highlight one thing, Mbak, is about a good relation. So for an introvert, there's hard to socialize. Do you have any suggestion about that to make a good
Um,
relation?
I think socialize is not necessary in the sense like it's not that you have to socialize. Of course, it's good for your relationship. You're building a team and stuff. I think it's just about being professional in the team, being able to deliver what you are committing to. Being able, I think the first thing, especially when you just join a team, is to be what I call like a trusted or a reliable team member. Like whatever that you are committing to when you say you are going to deliver a task, you really own that and you really deliver what you said you would. And it's really like building the credibility because when you just join a team, and this is actually goes in any level, whether you are a junior, a fresh grad, or even when you are a senior engineer joining a new company, people just don't know you. Like you have to build that credibility from the ground up to be able to prove your capability, and that's where what your commitment and your word is really important. To be able to set the right expectation as well in terms of um, this is what you would expect from me, because sometimes the pitfall is also from trying to prove yourself too much and trying to say that you can do everything and um, not being able to set the boundaries or set the expectation of how your work is going to be. So there is of course a lot of nuances in that, but in general, in terms of being an introvert, like um, don't worry, like a lot of people in this industries are introverts. So if you're scared, they're also probably scared. You're in the boat together, and yeah, and I think having those professional conversation early on is really going to help and also build up your confidence and being to know that you are um, a good and trusted member in the team.
Okay, Mbak, thank you for the answer. Okay, maybe you can jump into another one. Okay, it's from Novi Aniwaru. She asks, how do we as engineers reduce stress level due to work and hobbies that are out of balance, and how are we to stay productive even though we are under stress or something like that?
Um, that's a very good question. I think the way that I see it is is to be able to be sustainable. So we as human being, like we have limits, we have capacity, and burnout is real. Like being to the point where you are burned out, it's going to have a negative consequence on your productivity and what you can output as a professional. So that's really important to hence like do what people say like self-care. Like that's true. Like it's not just a gimmick in terms of like knowing what's your limit and be able to like um, be able to allocate some time to things that energizes you, refreshes you. It's not about indulging yourself. It's not about um, like because sometimes the opposite side is you kind of blame yourself like, oh, you're slacking, you're not doing work, you are being lazy. Like there's a lot of like self blame in that. I think avoiding that is very important and reframing that as self care. You're caring for yourself because you want yourself to be able to run the long run, and being able to sustain your productivity for the long run, because you don't want to work for like 2 3 years, working 24/7, 7 days a week, and then by the end of the third year you suddenly just quit the industry, for example. So that's not something that's beneficial for anyone, not for you, not for your company, not for this industry, of course. And that's where that as an individual is also our responsibility to understand our limit and to exercise self-care. And um, of course, like everyone have different hobbies and that occupies different um, levels of time. Like I think some of engineers in this industry, a lot of engineers have their own side projects that they would do as a way to distress. I myself don't find that distressing, and, or like don't find that refreshing. So I think early in my career, I found that like I have that like stress in the back of my mind, like, hey, I'm not being productive. Like, oh, I need to have side projects, like um, for me to be able to then feel like I'm productive in my even in my downtime. But in truth is everyone is different. Like for me, the way that I distress is away from being a software engineer. Like I have other hobbies outside of being an engineer, and that's if that's the way that you gain back your energy for you to be able to sustain yourself in the long run, and that's what you need to do.
Oke Mbak, so self care matters ya Mbak.
Betul
Oke
banget.
Novi. Oke, so Novi, don't feel guilty juga ya when you are doing your hobbies maybe. Okay, thank you Novi also for the questions. For the next question, it's from Muhammad Rifan. He asks, what advice would Mbak Angie give to young professionals or students who are considering pursuing a career in engineering? What potential pitfalls or misconceptions should they be aware of?
I think when you're considering what I mentioned in my initial session, so like figure out what you, because sometimes it's hard to know what you want to do. So figure out what you don't want to do. Figure out um, your limit in terms of like of I don't want to do that. So that's like eliminating certain things that you don't want to do. And if you want to pursue it and you find it, because it's not for everyone. Like I mean, what I mean by that is like some people just don't like coding. Like the funny thing, because in one of my classes last time that we had to do a bit of a coding project, like some people just don't like to do it, like no matter what. So like for some people it's just not for them, and so there is no point to be like, oh hi, I want to be a software engineer because it's cool and everyone is doing it, even though I hate it so much, but I just have to do it. Like there is no point of doing something that you know you hate. Um, so if you are considering it and it's something that you don't mind or you love doing it, just do it. And some potential pitfall, I think something that I can think about is the thing that is interesting in our industry is actually in many industry. If you want to be in the forefront of innovation in any particular industry, is one is to understand the trend and understand where things are going next, because that's the essence of technology, about innovation, about knowing how to use the um, latest improvement to make things better or to apply it in the application that helps people. So understanding what is next, how things work, what is the industry like, that knowledge really helps. And I think the other end of it is to also have good fundamental, good basics, strong understanding of how things are, because I think people can kind of generally like swing one way or another. Either they tend to maybe forget about the fundamentals and just like chasing like the next big thing, or sometimes they don't really follow that trend so much or so closely. So the fundamental things would still always apply in software engineering, to understand different layers of thing, how things go together. I'm talking about things like, how does the internet work? How does networking work? What is programming language? How does languages work? What's design pattern? How system work end to end? What is like, even though you are maybe specializing in one area, like whether you're in machine learning, you're in cloud, you are in mobile engineering, how does a system work in general? This is part of like understanding the big picture of things. And even though you may not have the time or um, the opportunity to go deep on certain topics, but just having that breadth really would give you a lot of advantage to really understand the whole system and hence the whole product, how things work and how you can monetize a certain system, and being able to um, make useful product and also sustainable product.
Okay, Mbak Angie, thank you for the answer. Hopefully, it can answer the refund question. And yeah, just be brave, and because we don't know what will happen. Okay, so for the next question, it's from Emma Kujaima. She asks, what your best experience is and what makes you proud of your career now?
Huh. That's a very good question. I think I actually haven't really thought about this, so it might not be a good answer. um, I don't think there is like a singular point where I find the best overall. Like there are cool things that I've experienced from this career in terms of um, my work at Google, being able to reach a lot of young people such as yourself, um, to like mentor people, um, to have good understanding of how to build solid software engineering systems and product as well. I find it very rewarding to be able to work in the team. Yeah, I think um, it's it's the journey then. It's the journey rather than the milestone, I find. I think what I'm what I find very very meaningful, to be honest, it's a lot of my time in a lot of the time in my career, especially early in my career, what I find very very useful or very very impactful for my career is to have different mentors. And I was fortunate enough to find different people, a few people along my journey in my career that is very willing in terms of being able to share their experience and being patient with me, and uh, being able to help me with my direction of my career in terms of a different junction, and giving me their time. And that's where I am always um, kind of want to give back, and being able to like meet different people and try to share my experience, and whether this is something that's useful or not. I hope some of it is. And that's where I think I'm most proud of, in terms of being able to, um, at this point in my career, being able to meet young prospective engineers, or even young engineers that is going into the industry, starting out in the industry, figuring things out, and just being able to share some of my experience, some of my tips, some of my thoughts about how I think they should navigate things. Yeah, I think that's what I find most fulfilling about my career so far.
Okay, Mbak, thank you for the answer. But talking about your career experience and journey, which do you prefer, Mbak? To stay in one company, or just move to another one company to seek for experience?
I think this is, of course, very situational and very subjective. Like, there is, of course, an inherent risk of, when you move into different company, it's not such an easy fit, because you are basically building your credibility again from the ground up. You're proving yourself again. You're building different network of people around you, which is also a good opportunity, because you are then expanding your network. Um, there is, of course, a plus and minus to it, whether uh, you find there is still a lot of opportunity you find in the company that you are working in, and you still want to grow, and the company still provides you with opportunity going in, or if there is interesting opportunity out there that you want to pursue as well. Like, there is, of course, like a lot of plus and minus. And I think the most important thing is always, like, at any junction, um, to kind of weigh everything, and figure out the proportion of importance of everything. What's the difference between, like, this opportunity or that opportunity? And yeah, like what I mentioned in my talk, how I usually comes about in, like, deciding is to decide, like, which of the opportunity helps me to stretch myself, to learn more, whether it's about the role, about a certain domain of knowledge, certain industry, um, certain specialty, or different experience. The living in different country, for example, it's a very different experience that you can learn and grow as a person itself, more than even outside of growing as an engineer. So yeah, so that's kind of my very long-winded answer of, it depends.
Okay, thank you, for the answer. It's really interesting to hear. Okay, next question is from Iwayana Tura Adnyana. Can you share a difficult or challenging experience you faced as a senior engineer? What advice would you give to others who might encounter similar challenges in their engineers' careers?
This feels like an interview question, yeah. um, Difficult or challenging question. Okay, I can answer it with two different examples. So technical and non-technical challenges. So uh, technical challenges is, like, for example, you have a production issue that comes out in the middle of the night, and then suddenly everyone goes into your war room and figuring out how to fix things. um, so maybe I can give a concrete example. In one of my projects previously, there was um, a live production system where um, we had an OTP that you need to enter for everyone to be able to log in. So there was an issue whereby, what we found out is, like, somebody in a different time zone suddenly, or lots of our users are not able to log in. That's kind of the first indication that happens, and I think we were working in different time zones, and we just got called. I think like in the evening, like 9, 10 p.m. to figure it out. I think so. Some tips that I find interesting is when you are a senior engineer, or someone that is not just about the title, but someone that is more senior in the team and kind of expected to have the responsibility to know what's going on. Sometimes there are times when you also don't know what's going on. Like things just happen, and you need time to figure out, to get things to the working state. So I think it's important as a team um, not go into that sometimes knee-jerk reaction of like try to figure out who's to blame. Like sometimes, especially in the larger organization, there is a knee-jerk reaction of like, okay, which department screw up in a way. But really go into a problem-solving mode of, okay, first of all, what do we do to get this system back online? So first to kind of find the fastest way to get it back online. It may not be the prettiest solution, it may not be the long term solution, but it might be then um, the most efficient way to have your system be back live online. So, like, whether it's like, okay, I need to restart the server, or and what's the risk of that? Like, is there anything that you lose out of doing that? It do you accidentally make the problem bigger by doing that? So yeah, like our problem turned out to be like a kind of a not a specifically an engineering problem, because we had a quota for the OTP system that we had before, and our system was not supposed to go for public release yet, and somehow there is another department that accidentally leaked that, and hence a lot of people sign up, and hence the system could not handle the load that is doing. So like just for example, solving the problem immediately in terms of like, okay, let's just add the quota for now, for the system to work first, and then let's figure out the process afterwards. Like how do we make things better in terms of the process? Like how do we then what sort of quota do we need in the future? How do we make sure that this does not happen in the future in terms of the communication, coordinating with like outside department, outside of our own department itself. So um, that's where like even in the technical challenges that you face, a lot of it is a non-technical issue that you need to fix as well. A lot of it is about people and about process. Um, yeah, so that's one example that you face as an engineer. Yeah, I think my example went on a bit too long, so I'm going to pass on that. So just to summarize, like make sure you have a stopgap. Make sure then you fix a process, the process afterwards as well. So not just stop at the stopgap, and focuses on the process and not on blaming people, basically.
So, as a senior engineer, do you ever consider to change your career path? Just be curious about it.
I think so far no. I mean, I'm not sure if I would change my mind in the next decade or so, but um, I find things are still interesting. Like there are a lot of things to learn. Um, there is always new things to learn. It's never ending learning, and sometimes you get tired of the learning, but that's also the part that makes things interesting. But it keeps changing, and also as a developer, there is a lot of different areas that you can go to, and even going into a dev role outside of a typical software engineering role is definitely a different challenge as well.
Okay, Mbak, thank you for the answer. So, the next question. is from Rini Rianta Yulita Simanjuntak. The question is, how do you balance the demands of your job with your personal life and interests? And what strategies have worked best for you?
Um, Thanks, Vinny, for the question. How do I balance my job? I think um, that's a really good question. I think because I'm thinking about some of my colleagues who have like family in terms of like who have children. I think that's definitely a lot more applicable, especially when you are at the stage of your life that you have children on your own and you have different demand of your family life. That's definitely something that I have not experienced yet, so I can't comment on that. That's definitely a different level of like balancing your personal life and your interests. Um, I think in terms of balancing, I don't know if the word balance is generally accurate or something that is achievable. I've because balance kind of implies it's like a 50-50. Like you have your job and you have your personal life and you are able to have a kind of just or fair proportion allocated to it. But I think every cycle of your life, you have seasons of things. You have times when your job is more demanding. You have times when your personal life demands more attention from you. And I think it's just to understand those cycles and be able to set the right expectation for people around you that rely on you, and to be able to then make sure, again back to the point about self-care, to make sure that you have enough on in your time to able to then be there for people around you, whether it's professionally or personally, whether and that's to have that sustainability and to have that then it's require you to then pay attention to yourself, to know that where is your limit and how you can refill your tank through those self-care and developing your interests outside of your work. Yeah.
Okay, so we must know our limit to make all of the balance. Okay, I think that is the last questions of this session today. Thank you very much, Mbak, for the material sharing and very thoughtful answer. Maybe from you, is there any closing statement that you want to deliver to us?
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you so much for inviting me. This is such a great platform, and I am very happy to have worked with Bangkit from last year, meeting with a lot of very inspiring people through this program. People that keeps me also be motivated, like looking at how much passion that people have in this industry, making me um, kind of be optimistic about the future of the tech industry as well. And I would just like to say all the best for all the Bangkit students here, and I hope to see you around in different session. I'm in on Android Puff, so hopefully like you bump into me on some of the sessions going forward. And yeah, and I'm really happy to have be able to get this opportunity to talk to you, and I hope to be able to have future interaction with some of you outside of Bangkit as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Mbak Angie. Maybe I want to try to conclude a little bit of our guest speaker session today. So, guys, if you want to develop your career and pursue your dream, just do it. But you must prepare yourself because, again, success is opportunity meeting preparation. Thank you, Mbak Angie, and everyone that for joining this session. And best of luck for the rest of your journey in Bangkit, guys. And bye bye, and happy weekend.
Happy weekend. Bye bye.